But it is part of the job. And, the rooster misbehaved quite a bit. Like, usually roosters, you're reincarnated as a rooster because you misbehaved at some point, and it's understood that you're ultimately going to transition through an 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗶 process, right? So that's in the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶. But now let's get into the rooster's treachery and his annoyingness, right? So in the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃 or 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃, it speaks of when the king and the rooster were actually best friends, right? And they would talk and all these different things, and they would reveal everything to each other. They were brothers, right? So the king actually, out of nowhere, had 2 Ifa initiations that he was going to perform. Or 1, maybe, I think it was 2. Don't hold me to it. But he had Ifa initiations pending, and he told the rooster, because he wanted the rooster to direct the initiations for him, and all these different things. But he didn't know that the rooster was jealous of him, right? And this was meant to be a very secret thing, because the gentlemen he was initiating were kings from other lands as well. But the rooster started basically telling everybody, right? And people were coming up to him saying, oh, are you going to initiate such and such? And, the king was denying it, but people were kind of looking like they knew exactly what the response should be. And he got a little, weirded out by it. So he went for divination with 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃, where Ifa told him to perform sacrifice with a rooster, with the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃. But he said, the only rooster is my best friend. I'm not going to sacrifice him. And 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃 said, well, maybe we should speak to him. And 𝘃𝗶𝗂, who desperately wanted to eat the rooster, kidnapped him, right? And they brought him in for questioning. And the rooster revealed that he was, in fact, the traitor. And the king asked, why would you do this to me? I mean, you were going to benefit from this process as well. And the rooster revealed that, he couldn't accept that the king was going to initiate people before him, especially being that the rooster knew more Ifa than the king. So it was the envy that he couldn't tolerate any further. And because of it, it was going to cost him his life. But 𝗃𝗂 and the cooler heads that prevailed said, hey, rather than killing him, why not make him feel disgrace for the rest of his life? And the king said, what do you mean? They said, well, don't give him the honor of death. Pluck a feather from him every time you have to do an ebo. And once the last feather falls and he's completely in the nude, then you sacrifice him, right? So it was pretty horrible. But that's where that story came from of the guy with the naked chicken in front of his house. And that's where the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃 came from, where you're able to perform ebo with the feathers of the animal in the meantime while you don't have the animal. Not really a practice I incorporate, but one that is legitimate and one that has probably saved a bunch of lives, because you look at a situation like Cuba where, the animals were scarce or, resources are limited. You're able to get quite a bit done with quite a little, right? So that's why you always see the ebo starts marked with usually a rooster, or the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃 concept with the feathers, which you can also see in the 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗃, where the feathers are poking out and whatnot. Sometimes that's all you need. But it definitely shows that the rooster wasn't always noble, and that he was capable of certain low frequency and vibration emotions, right?